Welcome Math 13 students. Here is my video on measures of position and the modified box plot. Outline. These items will be addressed in this presentation: the 5-number summary, the modified box plot. Definitions. For a set of data, the 5-number summary consists of these 5 values: the minimum value, Q1, Q2 or the median, Q3, and the maximum value. We also define the interquartile range to be Q3 minus Q1, or the middle 50% of values. The modified box plot. The modified box plot shows outliers, whereas a regular box plot does not show outliers. The modified box plot extends the left line to the smallest value greater than the lowest fence, and extends the right line to the largest value less than the upper fence. Any value less than the lower fence is an outlier. Any value greater than the upper fence is an outlier. Definitions. I will define the interquartile range, the lower fence, and the upper fence. The interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. The lower fence is equal to Q1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range. The upper fence is equal to Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. Example. Here is a simple random sample of car speeds in miles per hour on a local freeway. We will find the 5-number summary, construct the modified box plot, identify the lower fence, identify the upper fence, identify any outliers. Find the 5-number summary. Data goes into list 1, use one variable stats, view the results. Wow. So there we have the one variable stats showing the 5-number summary: minimum, Q1, median or Q2, Q3, and the maximum. Construct the modified box plot. Use stat plot. Select the appropriate data set. Select the appropriate graph. Use zoom stat. Wow. It looks like a box plot with a couple of dots. Point it at your data set, select your color, zoom stat. Wow. Identify the lower fence. 66.5 minus 1.5 times 71 minus 61 is 51.5. So the lower fence is 51.5 miles per hour. Identify the upper fence. 66.5 plus 1.5 times the quantity, 71 minus 61, for 81.5. The upper fence is 81.5 miles per hour. Identify any outliers. Using my trace function, I can view the quartiles, Q1, Q2, and Q3. The value that is just a bit more than the lower fence, the value that's a bit less than the upper fence. We have an outlier of 45 miles per hour and an outlier of 88 miles per hour. Wow. Summary. These items were addressed in this presentation: the 5-number summary and the modified box plot. The end.